Hi, this is Jithesh Sathyan. WhatsApp number +91 96566118229. Today's talk, we'll start with the second story narrated by the sage. Story 2, Slaying of Mahishasura. Mahishasura was the leader of the demons, or the Asuras. The Asuras, under his leadership, defeated the demigods, or the Devas. Mahishasura became ruler of the three worlds. Now let's analyze the story. In the second story, we are introduced to Mahishasura. Mahishasura in Sanskrit means buffalo demon. The characteristic that is symbolized with Mahishasura as buffalo is avidya or ignorance. There are multiple instances in Hindu scriptures where buffalo is used to symbolize ignorance due to its preference for staying in swamp and mud terrain. Though buffaloes were domesticated, cows and bulls were given a higher religious status in Hindu scriptures. Yama, the god of death, is hailed as the wisest among the demigods. His vehicle is buffalo that symbolizes the ignorance associated to death. Okay. Now coming to the three worlds. The three worlds correspond to three states of consciousness or awareness. The first one is Jagrat or the waking state. The second is Swapna, the dreaming state. And third is Sushupti, the deep sleep state. For simplicity, it is just enough to understand that the body has a direct influence on these three states of consciousness. For example, if we have a heavy dose of alcohol while we are in the waking state, it will take us first to a dreamy state and finally to deep sleep. So, lust, anger and greed, which comes from desire, can create a chemical reaction in our body which will impact the three states. The body itself is divided into three layers called physical body, Sthula Sharira, subtle body, Sukshma Sharira and causal body, Karana Sharira. The three layers of the body are coagulated with consciousness. In waking state, consciousness is consciousness or the self or the witness is relating to the physical body, subtle body and causal body. All three are active in the waking state. In dream state, consciousness, causal body and subtle body are active, while gross body is negated in the dreaming state. So, you are not aware of your body while you are in your dream state. In deep sleep state, consciousness and causal body are active while gross and subtle are negated. So, Mahishasura as the ruler of the three worlds shows the dominance of negative tendencies in the three states of awareness or consciousness. Slaying of Mahishasura. So now Indra, the leader of the demigods, along with the demigods and Brahma, went to Shiva and Vishnu. Now powerful energy emancipated from the Trinity, Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva and the demigods. The combined energy illuminated all directions. This combined energy or Shakti took the form of a goddess. The gods and the demigods gifted this goddess with weapons, ornaments and flowers. Okay. I'm coming to the analysis. The Trinity, Shiva, Vishnu and Brahma have a specific meaning when conceived within ourselves, which we covered earlier itself. Now corresponding this to the three elements in the internal body, we mentioned earlier that one is prana corresponding to Shiva that gets consumed for doing actions, Vishnu being the mind element that always remains or is preserved, and Brahma the intellectual element leading to creation of thoughts. How these three operate is the creation of ideas and thoughts from Brahma leads to everlasting experience from Vishnu and execution of actions from Shiva. Okay. The spiritual aspirant uses buddhi or intellect to find methods for focusing the mind. Hence, in the story, we see the leaders approaching Brahma for advice. Now, Brahma directs the leaders to Vishnu and Shiva, which is again about focusing the mind and execution of actions. Next, the combined energy from all the gods and demigods creates the goddess. The supreme consciousness is unmanifested and is not affected by these external factors. So the energy that causes all manifestation is Prakriti. The goddess or Prakriti is the energy or Shakti in all manifested objects. The same message is communicated when the combined energy from all the gods and demigods give rise to the goddess. As the combined energy, she also has power over all functions performed by the gods and the demigods, which is symbolized by the gods and the demigods offering their weapons and possessions to her. It is also important to note that while goddess of yogic sleep or Tamas Pradhana Prakriti, which was discussed in the first story, has a remarkable difference from the second story, the goddess in Mahishasura Vada or killing of Mahishasura, which corresponds to Rajas Pradhana Prakriti. Rajas Pradhana Prakriti goddess relates to actions, Rajas, that will eliminate the obstacle of avidya, or in other words, the goddess that will eliminate Mahishasura and his army. It's also interesting to note that Rajas Pradhan Prakriti is also called avidya, though avidya or ignorance is the negative aspect of Rajas Pradhan Prakriti, while the positive aspect of the same force of actions is required to eliminate ignorance by performing actions that increase sattva. So in the last talk we discussed about how the goddess was created and how she charged with weapons went ahead to face Mahishasura. So the goddess laughed and the world trembled. Mahishasura and his army charged out to find the cause of the noise and saw the goddess. Now Mahishasura's army started fighting the goddess. This included his general Chakshura and armies led by many powerful demons. The goddess started killing the main leaders of Mahishasura's army, starting with Chakshura. Now let's look at the analysis. So the holy battle started, which corresponds to the internal battle in the aspirant based on our view taken up in these talks. So Mahishasura's army started fighting the goddess. This included his general Chakshura and armies led by asuras named Chamara, Udagra, Mahahanu, Asiloma, Bhaskala, Ugradarsana, Parivarida and Bidala. First, let's take the general and then analyze the leaders. The general of Mahishasura's army is Chakshura. Chakshura in Sanskrit means fault in seeing or problem in vision. So the philosopher Adi Shankara in his commentary of Gita has stated three features of avidya which leads to viksheba or tossing of thoughts. The three features are non-perception of truth, second, wrong perception of truth, and third, doubtful perception of truth. This faulty perception or vision, that is the main feature of avidya, is the name given to the general of Mahishasura's army, which is Chakshura or faulty vision. The other names of the demon leaders depict the thoughts that cause viksheba. Some of the names convey direct meaning, while some others have symbolic meaning. For example, one of the Asura leader has its name as Chamara, which means yak in Sanskrit. This animal has a symbolic significance. So, symbolic significance is given for some of the leaders, while few other Asura leaders like Parivarita, meaning attachment, Bidala, meaning split up, have direct meaning conveyed in their names. So, the goddess is killing the Asura leaders, and we have the goddess used a sword to cut off Bidala, and the Asuras, Durdara and Durmuga were slain using the arrows of the goddess. The other Asura leaders also get killed. So now coming to the analysis, the goddess started killing the Asuras, which is the different causes of Viksheba, the obstruction relating to Rajas Pradhana Prakriti. So some of the names of the leaders explained in the earlier verse, which was relating to the battle lineup, are skipped in the verses relating to the killing sequence. And a few new names are added in the version in Markandeya Purana. But names like Bidala is mentioned both in the battle lineup as well as in the killing. So Bidala basically means fear of split up or fear of death, which is one reason which relates to tossing with a lot of thoughts leading to Viksheba. So that is destroyed, and we see that in the stotra or hymn called Mahishasura Mardini, composed by Adi Shankaracharya, explicitly calls out two Asuras, Durdara and Durmuga, which are mentioned in the killing sequence. The verses relating to killing sequence, but missed in the battle lineup verses of Markandeya Purana. So Durdara means burden in Sanskrit, and Durmuga means scurrilous. So Durdara probably leading to thoughts of burdens in life, and Durmuga corresponding to thoughts relating to reputation. So burdens, reputations, all this are things which actually trouble our mind when we try to sit for meditation. So thoughts about things which are burdens or which affect our focus is getting killed in order to destroy Viksheba. So based on Hindu scriptures, avidya and its obstruction of Viksheba is overcome using upasana or worship. Here the killing done by the goddess is the elimination of Viksheba to achieve focus based on worship or spiritual practice associated to the goddess. Achieving single pointed focus is a key requirement to be mastered for self-realization. And all paths of realization have worship or practice methods for the same. For example, in tantric worship involving chanting of mantras of the goddess, the mantras assist in stilling or focusing the mind. Similar exercises are explicitly coming up in Raja Yoga to improve the focus. Even Bhakti Yoga is expected to be complete surrender to the deity, so that during prayers, the mind of the aspirant is only focused on the deity and not lost in tossing of thoughts or Viksheba. So Mahishasura became angry on seeing his army getting destroyed by the goddess, and he started taking up different forms. He assumed the form of a buffalo and charged forward towards the goddess. The goddess flung her noose and bound the buffalo. Next, Mahishasura then transformed into a lion, which the goddess executed by cutting its head off with her sword. The Asura then changed his form to a man who was holding a sword and shield in his arms. The goddess showered arrows to slice him into pieces. Okay, now let's get into the analysis part. Having killed all the demon leaders, the goddess next turns to Mahishasura, who is the main opponent left. Next, the 6 causes of avidya are introduced as the different forms that Mahishasura takes to attack the goddess. The 6 causes of avidya that generate viksheba and emotional disturbance are discussed in multiple scriptures, multiple Upanishads specifically, and the six causes are discussed while we come up across each of the forms that Mahishasura takes. So right now we discussed the story. We looked into three different forms. One relating to the buffalo which is charged in, second relating to the lion, and third relating to a man carrying weapons. So we look into these three forms in this talk and consider the other forms in the next talk. So first form, kama, meaning passion or desire, symbolized in the story as the passion of the charging buffalo. Second one, krodha, meaning anger, symbolized in the story as the angry lion, that form which Mahishasura takes when the goddess brings Kama, symbolized by the charging bull, under her control with a noose. So, Krodha is again derived from Kama. So, it's actually in a cyclic order. So, if you look at Krodha or anger arises when things don't happen as you desire. When you desire that something will happen in a specific way and does not happen that way, that's when anger arises. So the desire changes form into anger. So krodha or anger is symbolized with the lion form. Next is lobha, meaning greed, symbolized in the story as a man, because the greed is a characteristic trait of humans. This is also eliminated or killed by the goddess. The remaining three being mada or pride, moha, which is confusion resulting from ignorance, and malsarya, meaning envy or jealousy. So, the importance of the next three, along with their symbolic significance, will be discussed in the next talk. Slaying of Mahishasura. So, in the last talk, we saw that Mahishasura was taking different forms, and the first three forms that Mahishasura took was discussed. Now, we come to the next three forms. So, next, Mahishasura took the form of an elephant. The goddess retaliated by cutting the trunk of the elephant. Then, Mahishasura again took the form of a buffalo and charged on to the goddess. This time, she jumped on the buffalo, pinned that buffalo down with her foot, and pierced his neck with her trident. Since the body could not move as it was pinned down by the foot of the goddess, Mahishasura in his true form emerged from the head portion of the buffalo. The goddess immediately cut off the head and killed Mahishasura. The demigods and the sages praised the goddess on her victory. Now let's analyze the story. The six causes of avidya was brought up in the last talk, that are considered to generate viksheba or disturbances which prevent focus of the mind. And we discussed kama, krodha and lobha in the last talk. So next in the order is mada, meaning pride, symbolized in the story as an elephant. Elephants were a symbol of pride in Vedic age. Kings and status of deities were shown in terms of procession on elephants' back as a symbol of royalty. The elephant form of Mahishasura tries to drag the lion of the goddess, and which is the pride of the aspirant, preventing him from her from accepting progress in spiritual path, is conveyed in this event, which the goddess eliminates by freeing the lion from the elephant's trunk by cutting it. Moha, meaning foolishness or confusion arising from ignorance, is symbolized in the story with the buffalo. The symbolic significance of buffalo with ignorance is already clarified while discussing the meaning of Mahishasura. Last one is Malsarya, meaning envy or jealousy. This is also symbolized as a man emerging from the buffalo that is pinned down by the goddess with her trident. Malsarya is said to encompass all the other five distresses. This could be the reason for representing it from a emerging form as man, where the first and last forms are both buffaloes. And the verse says Mahishasura coming out in his actual form, which the goddess uses to cut off the head of Mahishasura. So the goddess then kills Mahishasura as the man emerging from the buffalo, or all the causes of Viksheba. Hence, in the second story, Rajas Pradhana Prakriti and its obstructing power of Viksheba is discussed. When likes and dislikes on people and things are eliminated using goddess sadhana, then Tamas Pradhana Prakriti is overcome as outlined in the first story. If we overcome Vikshepa and we are able to achieve one pointed focus of the mind using goddess Upasana, then you have achieved victory over the obstacle of Rajas Pradhana Prakriti. Thanks for listening.